Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America, we bring the resource to you, the DU Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another great edition of the DU Podcast. My name is John Gordon. I'll be your host. I'm a senior communications specialist here at Ducks Unlimited, and one of my jobs is production coordinator of Ducks Unlimited TV. And this is another special episode of the podcast where we celebrate 25 years of Ducks Unlimited television, the longest-running waterfowling show in outdoor TV history. And joining me today are the guys that really make it happen behind the scenes. It's Richie Davenport.
Hey, guys.
Over here to my left, and to my right, Guy Shepperd.
Yes, sir.
And they both work for Moose Media, which is, guys, what does that mean, Moose?
Mossy Oak Outdoor Sports and Entertainment.
There you go. There you go. So, and we've been, the Moose Media has been the production team for DUTV since 2013 was the first filming season. And Richie was there for all of that. And then Guy came along a couple of years later. So we're going to talk about some of the adventures they've had along the way and a little bit of behind the curtain, so to speak, of what it takes to produce a waterfowl hunting TV show, which is, I can tell you from experience as well, it's not an easy thing to do by any means. It's really a difficult deal. No fences in the sky, right? So those ducks and geese are pretty much free to do what they want, and it's tough sometimes to get them to do what you want. So anyway, Richie, I'm going to start with you, since you were around in the early days of Moose's part in DUTV. Tell us about that whole process and how it came to be that y'all started producing the show.
Well, I was more kind of behind. That was more to Greg Tinsley, Dennis Presley, those guys kind of meeting with Ducks Unlimited and working that deal out. But I think that that discussion lasted a while, and then it kind of happened just like that, and so right there before duck season, and we had to kind of really get the ball rolling and really quick.
I got you. So tell us about I know had you had prior experience with waterfowl TV?
I had very little actually with waterfowl. I had a good amount of experience in the outdoors realm, deer hunting, turkey hunting, things of that nature. But waterfowl, very limited. So coming in, granted, like I said, we kind of, I think they signed the deal, and then like 2 weeks later, we were down in Louisiana filming, Teal season, and it was all systems go. I was, there's some gear we were pulling out of boxes there down at Honey Break, kind of, all right, let's see what happens, and and I don't know if I should say it, but they say, fake it till you make it,
Exactly. So I had heard through the grapevine there was some boat sinkings going on in the early shows.
Yeah, and so as you say, so it's the very first trip. We went down to Honey Break down in Louisiana, and meeting the DU guys for the first time, and kind of getting to know each other there on production wise. And it's opening morning of the season, and we are going to Catahoula Lake. So, public, and we're at the boat ramp, and there is, traffic galore at the boat ramp, and we're in line there, and we're going out on an airboat. And, everything's working good. They're backing the airboat down, and they drop it a little too soon, and it drops on the boat ramp. They pull the trailer out from underneath it on the boat ramp, and so it's sitting there. It's out of the water. It's totally out of the water. And, it's 4:30 in the morning, and it's just, after that, it's just chaos. And just, we got the boat ramp blocked, and it's, all these guys open in the morning, trying to get around us. And the one saving grace in that, it was a double ramp. And if it wasn't for the double ramp, we really might not have made it out of there. But, we finally, I think we actually did. We got to about an hour or so. We got, back on trailer and got another boat and went out there and scratched out a few ducks. And then so we kind of, worked through that. And then literally the next trip, we went there straight there from Louisiana to North Dakota. Utah. Went to Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. And so flew from Louisiana got into Salt Lake City that night. That next morning, we haven't seen this place. We're in the dark, and we got a boatload of guys, and all of a sudden, someone says, "We're going down."
Flashbacks already, yeah.
What? And and then the boat is we're in this little John boat, 12-footer, and we had like three or four guys and dogs and gear and duck gear and camera gear, and we start going down, and we're just like have no idea how deep we are. We're in this just this pothole there and outside Salt Lake City, and thankfully it was just at right there at chest level, right there before it went over the waders, and we stepped out. One of the guys, he actually tripped coming out and took a total plunge, and some of the camera gear got wet and dunked, but majority of it made it. But the what's worse about that is, so I made it out of that whole deal, going down in the boat, not getting wet, and then I'm walking and I'm dredging back to shore, and then I trip dredging the shore like in 2 inches of water, and I fall face first, right there in my face, and then I just get drenched, and it's just like I said, that's how the two first trips there of DU started, and literally, I would go from there. We go to North Dakota, and that's with Wade Bourne, and we get there the night of, and we're getting all set up. We're gonna go hunt on Devil's Lake, and Wade calls the guy, his buddy, who we're gonna go hunt with, and he's like, "Hey man, we're here. We're gonna go hunt in the morning. Everything's good." And he's like, "Huh?" It comes out the guy, his buddy, thought we were hunting the next year, and so we get to North Dakota, and we have nowhere that night, and we have nowhere to go. But Wade Bourne, the legend that he is, knew I had an old military buddy like down the road, and we went hunting with him and his family for like 3 days, and we were able to scratch out some ducks and some potholes up there in North Dakota. So it's just it was the first few trips there was just, I don't know, maybe a little chaotic and just trying to just dealing with all that, but it's been an experience for sure.
So you're wondering, what did I get myself into at this point? In the first few episodes, that's pretty crazy that you get to a location and they think it's the next year that you're filming, and the host is totally unprepared. Thankfully, we haven't run into that. Guy and I haven't run into that yet. That could happen though. But Guy, so you came on 2016, right in that time frame?
Yes, I think 2016, 2017, somewhere in there.
So give us a little of your background. I know you're from Texas and living in Georgia now, but how'd you get started in videography?
I went to got a passion for it in high school, then kind of carried that on through college, went to University of North Texas and got a Bachelor of Arts in film, radio, television, film, and just kind of had a friend of a friend that filmed for a guy named Colorado Buck that had an outdoor show, and I started freelancing for him for several years, and then we kind of, through the Lord, ended up in Georgia, and had a friend of my wife's, kind of reach out, seeing that we had moved to Georgia, and we saw that he worked for this company called Moose Media in the video production department. And so we were like, "Hey, do you need any help?"
Yeah.
And exactly. So I kind of got into that. But yeah, I mean, hunted, fished, whole life growing up, whitetail deer, dove, quail, being in Texas. Didn't do a whole lot of waterfowling. That just wasn't a huge part of our culture. But I have grown such a passion for it. I think it's an incredible sport and pursuit. And, just a very complex animal, just to hunt and pursue. And then you add on top of that, trying to film it is it's challenging and it's a lot of fun.
It seems like almost you pull a camera out on a hunt, and they disappear on you sometimes. And it's just, so let's talk about that a little bit from both of y'all. And I know both of you have filmed, waterfowl, working decoys, coming in on hunts, not coming in on hunts, being in the wrong position, things like that. Richie, tell us a little about that as far as the challenges of not only having the birds, in the right location, but having the hunters shoot them at the right times. People don't really realize that it all looks like seamless when you're watching a show, but there's a lot behind it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We run with usually running with two camera guys, the guy in the blind, and then a guy out in the marsh there behind the blind, getting just strictly bird footage, and getting them on camera, getting them coming in back, backpedaling, getting them in focus. Depending, there's shooting light, there's shooting time, and there's shooting light. So sometimes, especially sometimes with hunters, trying to get them to hold off. I know it's shooting time, but if you can wait them to 5 minutes for camera light, and that can be. Sometimes that can be a little difficult.
I've watched some people come unglued.
Yeah.
When
I'll bet.
mallards are backpedaling in the decoys, and we're going, wait, no, not yet.
Yeah.
And they just want to smack me with the stock of their gun. But yeah.
And I tell you, something that's really helped capture waterfowl these days is the downsizing of equipment. And I know in the early days, and I talked to this about before when I would talk to Jared Brown and Mark Pierce, is that back in those days, the equipment was huge. You had a camera the size of 3 cinder blocks you're trying to haul around, and it was extremely heavy. And so those things have really downsized since then. And DSLR cameras are really used in a lot of ways, especially inside the blinds and everything. So people, it's really gotten easier to film. But still, you have the same challenges of the birds need to be in the right location, in the right light, and all. You could have 1,000 birds flying over you, but if they're not finishing where you need them, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So that that's a huge part of it as well. That I don't think a lot of folks just don't realize it. Like I said, they've seen 1,000 DVDs and TV shows now that just look so cool, the birds there, but they don't realize what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I came on in 2018, I came on. I have to pinch myself sometimes because I was such a DUTV fan to begin with. And I had seen a lot of the episodes over all the years. And when I worked at Avery Outdoors, I had worked with Mike Checkett actually on some of their stuff because Avery was a sponsor of the show. But I never realized, thought that I'd be the guy, pulling the string, so to speak, for the show. And so I've had a lot of fun, putting it all together and really coordinating everybody and the hosts and the people involved on the shows and everything like that. And, I know y'all have some of your favorite episodes as well. I just, a couple I want to touch on. And I want to say, I don't think either one of you are involved in this, but Shondi and Ashley in Utah with the teal and all that, that was a very cool episode. It's pretty rare that you get to see flocks of green wings numbering in the hundreds like that. Can y'all think of some episodes in your past that would really stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I remember editing that episode with Shondi and Ashley, and it was fun to watch their bond as two women in the outdoors grow. Same thing, meeting on a boat dock essentially, and to watch them grow in both of their passions for the outdoors was really cool. And then I got to go, I think it was the following year, we went to Idaho. Same thing, it was Ashley and Shondi, and we hunted in Idaho and had a great hunt. And it was so fun to see, we got a lot of kind of more behind the scenes type of stuff, just them joking around, just them being themselves. And I think that's something that's really unique and cool about DUTV is delving into people's characters and finding the story through people. And it's not just hunting, but it's about conservation. It's about people, which takes me kind of to probably one of my more favorite filming adventures that I've been on for DUTV was a guy in Louisiana named Cal Kingsmill. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he was a decoy carver, and hand carved all the decoys, and he didn't really use any power tools or anything. I think he kind of used a bandsaw to rough out the main block, but then everything after that was hatchets and knives and everything, and he hand painted stuff. And it was really neat their family had a big rig wrecking service, and you kind of walk into this big warehouse shop and you just see these huge trucks and parts and large stuff going on, and then you kind of go into the corner, and in the corner of this big shop is this little kind of artistic haven. All of his stuff is his blocks and his wood and all that stuff is strewn out everywhere, and his tools and knives. And, on the table, he had sketched, heads of ducks that he wanted to do and things like that. And it was just it was a stark contrast between this like kind of greasy industrial thing and this like artistic studio, and it existed in this one person. And he had this old letter from World War II, I believe, that was writing home. I think he was in France, and he wrote home, and he was talking about how his birthday was coming up, and like the only thing he wanted was a couple dozen decoys so that they could go hunting together whenever he got home from the war. And he unfortunately was killed in action, I think like a week or two after he wrote that letter. But he pulled it out, and we read it, and we kind of did some treatment with that in the edit to shine a light on that. And I think his character, his personality, he just wanted to do things kind of the old school way. We put like a little canoe on the main boat and drove it out to the marsh because he wanted to put out his decoys out of like wicker baskets, his hand carved decoys, paddle them out and put them out that way. It was just like a really neat way to see kind of be almost put back in time to the way that it was years ago.
And there's such a deep waterfowling history in Louisiana, and there's a lot of those guys who really cling to it down there. They really want to do it the old way.
He lived in New Orleans. He paddled him and his wife out of New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit. I mean, this guy was like lives and breathes New Orleans and Louisiana, and it was a really cool story.
Yeah, I remember that episode very well, and it just really showed you, like you said, the real passion that guy has for waterfowling and the traditions, and it's just, it's what it's all about. Richie, we were talking about Wade earlier, Wade Bourne, and nobody that I ever have talked to, and I talked to Wade before he passed, everyone has the same story, that Wade was such an incredible guy, and he was a real elder statesman of the outdoors, and How did your interactions with Wade really shape your ability to put together a good show and really tell a story?
Wade was, as I stated earlier, I hadn't shot much waterfowl, and so coming in with Wade being one of the hosts that year and for a few years, he really was a mentor in that fact of helping me out, and he was so easy to work with, and like, hey Wade, that was great. Can we shoot this again though? But hey, let's do. He was more willing to do anything, and there were some great times with him. Just he could really interact with anybody. I remember seeing we were it was in North Dakota, I believe it was, and we were just in this just run down coffee shop trying to get some lunch real quick. And just somebody comes up to him, out of the blue, hey, you're Wade Bourne. And Wade just sat there and talked to him for 15 minutes. And just, and that's just the kind of, guy he was. And just very humble and just a great guy. Now, I do have, I guess, there are a few stories here of Wade. But on one of our adventures, I was trying to remember exactly where it was. It might have been Colorado, Idaho. I can't remember, but we were on a hunt. We were on a DUTV trip. It was me, Wade Bourne, and another cameraman of ours, Josh Pressner. And we were, on a lot of these trips, we go to some of the DU banquets. They'll have them, and we'll go and film them and things of that nature, and just interact with people, interview people. And so, well... So a lot of times on these trips, we'll just rent like a van, like a minivan, because it's like cost effective, and we can cram a lot of stuff in there. So, I mean, I know it's not the coolest thing, but so
we've taken some minivans and some questionable places before.
We've definitely
driven them through some fields.
Yeah. And so we're in this minivan, right? And so this banquet's is in a barn in the middle of a cornfield, this cut cornfield. And so the parking lot is a cut cornfield. It's literally what it is. And everybody's, all the duck hunters out there in their trucks and things of that nature. We'll pull up in our minivan, right? And so, I didn't realize it, but there's irrigation lines all over the place in this cornfield that, all these vehicles have, trucks have driven over, but I didn't realize that. And so anyway, I drive over it in the minivan, and all of a sudden, just like 8 feet of water is just shooting out of the ground. I'm like, what in the world is this? What is going on? Right in the middle of this cornfield and this parking lot of people and everything. Well, the water is flowing into the banquet, into the barn. Right there, right? And so it ends up, it's about an hour. They can't get the water off, and there's about 2-3 inches of water in the whole facility. And there's, everybody's running around, trying to get chairs up and getting, some of the giveaway prizes and stuff like that away, getting them off the floor so they get wet. And so Wade jumps out of the van and goes inside, and then I go and park, and me and Josh are like, what are we doing here, man? All right, well, let's go in and see what we can do, try to figure this out. And I walk in the door, and Wade's there with like 4 people in there. And he's pointing at me. There he is right there. That's the guy. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do there. My face, I just like so embarrassed. I'm like, wait, what are you doing? And he's just having a great time, So but anyway, that was just, one of the experiences. It was fun. It was great. And even the volunteers there, they just, adapted to it. They're like, well, we're duck hunters, so a little water's not going to hurt anybody. And they just, just rolled their pants up, and they just, went through the whole deal.
Man, that's an awesome story. And talking to Mark and Jared before too about Wade, they said Wade really preferred to hunt on public land if he could, and that presents its own challenges. You were talking about being on a boat ramp at 4:30 in the morning. You got to get out there before everybody else does. It's not a private spot where you just roll in there when you want to. So he was a real champion of the public land scene, and it's just, and I try to do some things on public land, but it's just, like I said, it's challenging, it just really, it's tough to do it on that. But anyway, you were talking about Josh earlier, and I was on a couple of locations with Josh. There's some characters behind that scene as well, of the guys that y'all have had, work with y'all on location. There's one I'm thinking of in particular that guys worked with a lot, and you have too, is Austin Brown. And old AB, and he, for the folks in the audience, Austin is an Arkansas guy, and man, he's a mallard hunter. Okay, so every time we go on location, all of these places, he's talking about, man, we need to be back on the White River, shooting mallards,
back to the promised land,
back to the promised land. And he's a real character. There's some other guys y'all have worked with over the years that kind of stand out that really are some cool guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked a lot with Austin and Richie. Josh is one. He's kind of from the Midwest. I think he's from Wisconsin. Great guy, and we started working with Ed Wall, who's an incredible wildlife photographer. And it's been fun to meet other people that have been passionate about telling stories, duck hunting, and wildlife photography, videography, stuff like that. So yeah, there's been some good guys. Austin is a top one, because I think when you're on the road with someone for an extended period of time, 4 or 5 days a piece, and then you kind of, a lot of the time our schedule is like, we're gone 5 days, we're home for 4 or 5 days, and then we're gone for another 5 days, and it's kind of back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes they're double up trips where you kind of go one place to another. So when you're on the road with someone, you're sitting in a car, because oftentimes, we fly into somewhere and then we got a 3 or 4 hour drive from the airport to wherever we're going to hunt, and then hotel rooms, all that. You get to know someone well. You find out their quirks. And it's a fun thing to be around. Austin is a great personality. He loves Arkansas and loves mallards.
He's one of those guys. He tricks you in that he's quiet, he's deceiving, but behind the camera though, he'll let it go. And I mean, there's been other guys. I remember, like way back in the day, Cody Worley.
Oh yeah,
Cody,
Big Cody.
And there's some of the dealing with just the transportation of getting to places. Going through Canada, going through customs and things of that nature. And Cody would always, for whatever reason, get stopped by customs. He's always, every single time, and we would have to wait on him for a few hours while he gets interrogated by customs.
Yep.
But some of that was customs. Maybe he got flagged or something for one reason or another, and just dealing with issues. I mean, you got snagged in customs one time and had to jump the border
several times. I mean, this was going back to like one of the first times I went with Colorado Buck. This would have been like 2012 or something like that. We were going up to do, I think it was a moose hunt up in Calgary, and flying in and like, I mean, I'm 21 years old, you know, kind of fresh into this, you know, travel outside the country. Never traveled outside the country beside that. And I've got all this camera gear and I'm kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And, you know, next thing I know, this customs guy's like, what's all that equipment? And I was like, well, you know, we're here doing this. And he started, you know, asking me general questions about who I was with and what I was doing. I was like, man, I'm just trying to make a TV show.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't realize what all it really took. And we've ironed that out a lot, you know, as far as getting to and from there. But I mean, the logistics of doing what we do is difficult to get not only people, you know, I live in Georgia, Austin lives in Arkansas, then we got hosts that, you know, Fred Zink's in Ohio, Doug Larson's in PA, and, you know, I mean, we're often just like coming from almost all over the map on a place and, you know, meeting in a spot, and it takes a lot to not only just get there, get the location secured, get all that stuff, and then to, you know, like we said, to try to get the ducks to work on top of that. It's a challenge, but it's fun.
You know, it's very true. And people don't realize, like I said, you can fly into a location, then you've got a journey trying to get out to these places. They're so remote in a lot of cases, especially in a place like Canada.
Yeah.
You've always got to have a drive at least 2-3 hours to get anywhere. We're a North American organization at DU, and one thing I really would like to get back to Mexico at some point, but it's just been hard to do because it's just that countries can be a little scary at times these days. So, did you ever go down there, Richie, and film?
No,
a show?
I haven't had the pleasure of with DUTV going down south of the border. You know, we've tried, you know, to work that, as you said, we've tried to do that a few times. It just hasn't panned out yet. It definitely would be a cool adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some video in that kind of Yucatan Peninsula and stuff like that with the teal, blue-winged teal, and I mean, it's just an incredible location. And yeah, I hope to get there one day.
Well, hopefully I can make that happen at some point. I've tried in the past, and there's the issues that are not anything you deal with in either Canada or the U.S. So we'll hopefully can make that happen. We, you know, this 25th anniversary of DUTV season coming up. Talk about that a little bit. I'm really excited about it. I think we got some incredible shows that we filmed, and you guys would know better than I was. You were there for most of it. Guy from this past season, I mean, what is some you know, anything that stands out to you of anything you were involved with?
You know, I'm not just saying this because, you know, we're sitting in the DU podcast studio right now, but I had a great time in Denver with the campus waterfowl, Derek Christians, and the guys, Colin Mullins and Michael, that we hunted with down there. To see their passion for getting the next generation involved, even though they're freshly out of college, you know, they're starting their careers, but they were really passionate about getting the next generation involved. And then their understanding of the power of the DU family was incredible. You know, the DU Denver Gala, which you filmed before, I think several years ago.
Yeah, we did.
Is one of the top banquets every year, and you know, that was my first time to going to that banquet. But you're standing next to guys that have some swing, you know, and those young guys understand that, and they understand the power that, you know, presenting yourself as a college student or you know, freshly out of college, presenting yourself in a professional manner, networking, all that through third term, through you know, they transitioning from DU varsity, DU university, and now on into, you know, their careers and full DU regular old membership. They understand the power of that, and I think that those guys have a bright future. And it was really cool to be with them, because kind of the story was we're kind of going back to Colin and Michael's old stomping grounds when they were, growing up on the Front Range in that area, knocking on doors, figuring out how to waterfowl as a young kid, kind of not being under the wing necessarily of your dad, your uncle, your, cousin, your friend or whatever, just kind of them learning to step out on their own. And we hunted some of their old connections there and had 3 great hunts. One of them was a little slow. It seems like every time we go on a trip, even if we do really, really good, we'll have 2 real good days and one kind of a little bit softer day. It is so hard to put 3 hunts together in a row that are strong each time. Now, we've had it before. It happens a lot, but it's a little more rare. Generally, it's 2 real good hunts and one a little bit softer hunt. And but they put us on, 3 good hunts, and just meeting their network of guys and young guys, and meeting Derek and all that they've got going on with the campus waterfowl on that tour. It was eye-opening. It was cool to see what campus waterfowl has built over the years, and being wrapped in with DU now in such an integral way. It was cool.
And that's another point I like to bring up. When you're the best laid plans of mice and men sometimes, right? That show came about because we couldn't get into Canada, and where we wanted to go. We're trying to go to Prince Edward Island, which hopefully, I'm going to cross my fingers, happens this fall.
Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, COVID. Thanks to COVID. So we couldn't get there. So I was scrambling, trying to find some ideas, and I talked to our youth and ed coordinator, Mark Horvitz, about it. Oh, Mark, who's been on the show several times. And he's like, man, I tell you about these guys in Colorado. And that's just how it all happens sometimes. It just comes together, and you put it together on the fly, and next thing you know, it's a great episode. So it behind the scenes of it, there's a lot that goes into this stuff, especially these shows that are really good. And you were talking about having the 3 days that are strong, and it's very tough to do. You're happy to hit one. A lot of times you get one. Yeah. But Richie, I was thinking about, before I worked for DU, I was involved with the DUTV episode that you filmed with AB at Beaver Dam. Yeah. It was the women's episode with Ainsley was a host, and some really great gals. Christine Thomas, who's been a long-time DU board member. We had it was Carrie Lingo and Jan Young. They've all been involved heavily, and it was a great hunt. But it shows you, too, you plan that so far in advance. Mm-hmm. That had been planned for months and months before. There was no way we were going to know that the massive cold front was coming in. And it was going to be the exact perfect conditions out there in Beaver Dam, and we had ducks all over us for 3 days. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, too, that I don't think people realize. They just think, oh, well, they just wait till they have a lot of ducks, right? No. And all this is put together now in the spring and summer, and you just get your fingers crossed and praying that it all comes together. And so, folks, if you see some really good hunting on DUTV, it's just because the stars aligned, and we were fortunate that it all came together.
Yeah, that goes back to the logistics of everything. You think we have to produce 13 original episodes every year, and we have from September till January. Sometimes we can extend it with a late goose season, snow goose season, into February, April. But we have those months to produce content, and I wish you could just sit there with the phone on go, but you're talking about, 5 different people, like I said, meeting at one spot, and to do that and not have stuff on top of, one trip on top of another or something like that, it's difficult. And it's so much fun when the stars align, because it just makes it so much easier. And that's what we're shooting for. That's what we want. I know people, waterfowl footage, just filming birds is bread and butter. You know what I mean? Just being able to get in with them and have a good group of birds around is that's what makes it happen. That's great, man. That's great. It's just, but it's tough, and there's some hunts that are duds. Let's face it. There's some of them that just completely just don't make it. They just, the birds don't cooperate.
We there's tough hunts. We were filming with Warren Coco down in Louisiana this year.
Yeah, this year.
It was just a tough hunt. It was hot. We had just a few birds, but Warren, he's a character, and just, telling his story, as you were mentioning earlier, guy, about telling that story, telling his story. He loves to cook too, but then the work he's done himself there, it just speaks volumes of him and his character. And going back to what you're talking about, the logistics of things, I think the thing too is you got to realize of the volunteers and the other people within DU at different locations of what the boots on the ground work that they do before we even get there. They're scouting birds. They're going to location to location. Oh, this is what is usually good, but hey, this is not good this year. But my friend down here, he's got, he said he spotted some bird, so there's a lot of work that, to the extent that we don't even see that's behind the grounds, behind.
Yeah, and we can't take credit for any of that. I mean, that's the thing. We're flying in. We do our best to set ourselves up for success, but we are in the end relying on those volunteers or whoever we're going with to do the legwork. And shout out to those guys, because that's what it takes for it to happen. Us showing up with the cameras is one thing, but if we don't know where we're going or have birds or have that ability to scout and find, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I'd like to say that myself. Shout out to all the volunteers that I've worked with over the years, and DU donors and outfitters and everyone who's been a part of this and made it happen. Without those people on the ground, the show doesn't exist. And the thing about DUTV too is it's not just a straight up hunting show. There's a story to tell, and it's a conservation story. That's what we're all about. So you have to really bring those elements into the show and really create a story around it versus just going out and hunting.
Yeah.
So that's all on them too, about really helping y'all create the story and tell it. And it's a cool thing when it all comes together.
Yep.
But anyway, so yeah, we've got some great shows coming up for this fall. I think, for the 25th anniversary season, we had some stars align in a lot of cases that it really is going to be very cool.
Yes.
And some great people and places on this coming season. We start out in Nebraska and work our way down the flyway. Eventually, I think it's the last filming was in Arkansas.
With some spec hunting with David Schusler.
And the
guys from Tetra Hearing.
Fundraising director and the guys from Tetra Hearing. And Tetra has really stepped up and really become a good part of the show. And I'm really looking forward to that, because I think it talks about what they do and how, protecting your hearing is just a huge deal that most people don't even realize. So that I'm really looking forward to seeing that one as well. And so all this comes out in July, right?
Yes.
But it takes, it's a year-round thing. I mean, you've got your truncated window of seasons trying to film it all. Then you've got to put it all together. Y'all are here at DU headquarters to film Insights segments with Adam Putnam and Karen Waldrop. You just got back from Wild Rose, filming with Mike Stewart. And it's just, people don't realize that they watch it for, 30 minutes. And that's all cool. But it's months and months that went into it.
It is, yeah. I mean, you think about it, it's pretty much a year-round project. We film from September to, like I said, February, into January, into February. And, then from then on, it's updating any graphics, all that stuff, getting all the show prepped and ready. And then we've got duck dog segments, shooting segments, insight segments that we have to produce in those next couple months. And then we're really starting to churn stuff out, getting it ready for network. Because once those due dates hit in June and July, they don't stop. And so then it airs, July through September, I think is the last airing week. And then, then you're right back into early teal season and into Canada opening season. So yeah, I mean, it takes you a year-round project to produce 1 year of one season.
Yeah, that's it. Folks think, they just, going out there, hanging out, duck hunting, and, that's it.
It's a lot of work.
It's a year-round deal. I mean, I'm always thinking about the show in some way or another, trying to figure out where we're going next, It's cool. It's very cool. Well, guys, I really thank y'all for being here. And like I said, we've got work to do today, with Karen, with Insight. So it just, like I said, it's coming back around. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to this 25th anniversary season. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yes, it's a huge accomplishment, and I mean, it's not only 25th anniversary of DUTV. It's 85 years of
That's right.
conservation, wetlands, and habitat, by Ducks Unlimited. I mean, those two milestones are just huge for the organization. And we do nothing but kind of shine the light on what you guys do. And it wouldn't have, we wouldn't have a story if it wasn't for you guys. So, I applaud you guys and all the hard work that goes on here at headquarters and across the country to further DU's mission.
Yeah, it's a proud partnership between Moose Media and Mossy Oak to be partners with Ducks Unlimited, and look forward to the future.
Yep. Yeah, I know it's a big passion for Toxie and the guys at Mossy Oak is that partnership and being a strong supporter of conservation, across the board, whether it's NWTF or whatever else, but a strong supporter of conservation is a huge passion for Toxie and the folks there at Mossy Oak. So.
All right, man. Like you said, 85 years, 1937, the founding of DU, and it's really been, I think, a labor of love for everybody involved over all the years. And like I said, we just really appreciate what Mossy Oak has done and what y'all have done with Moose for the TV show. And here's the next 25 years, adventures. Hopefully there's not any boat sinkings going on or anything like that. But Richie might flood something out again. Yeah. We don't know yet, but that's all right.
Yeah, for a while there, no one would jump in the boat with me.
I can imagine. I'd be frightened as well.
Yeah.
And thanks for everybody listening to the DU podcast. Once again, if you want to see old episodes of the show, go to ducks.org, go to the media tab at the top, pull it down. DUTV is right there, and you can go down a rabbit hole of old episodes and watch the thing for hours. So anyway, folks, thanks for listening to the Ducks Unlimited podcast and supporting Ducks Unlimited, North America's leader in wetlands conservation. And as the late, great Wade Bourne used to say, more habitat on the ground means more ducks in the sky. I'm John Gordon, and thanks for listening to the DU podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the DU podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And visit www.ducks.org/DU podcast for resources based on today's topics, as well as access to more episodes. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks.